Hogwarts Legacy is a video game I had no intentions of purchasing, but it keeps popping up in my social feeds. It seems like this game that's only coming out in early February is already getting ratioed. It appears there's a bit of a cyber war going on right now between the subreddit division of the woke mob army and, I guess, people that just want to play the game, aka transphobes. The entire assault campaign seems to be coming out of a singular subreddit, that being r/circlejerk gaming, a subreddit which I was unfamiliar with until very, very recently, but it seems like going back through their posts, it's a subreddit for gay gamers, perhaps? I'm actually not sure because there is another subreddit called Gamers with a Y. Like honestly, the whole gaming circle jerk subreddit is like has real hall monitor vibes energies, or at least that was until very recently, until like the past couple weeks. It's just essentially turned into a subreddit solely dedicated to trying to get Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy canceled. I mean, if you just take a look, I mean, the very first thing you have is like this banner on the side here that says, "This site is Harry Potter free. Looking for it? Leave." That's right, you're not even allowed to discuss Harry Potter unless you're saying naughty things about it. You're not allowed to like anything Potter related. And then if you just scroll down through the posts, I mean, 90% of them are about this game, or like about like the meta surrounding it. I mean, you have this one, which is someone saying Hogwarts Legacy is Steam's best-selling game right now, and the caption is, "This is actually so sad." No, what's sad is that you care that much. Like, it'd be one thing if you're like, hey, the person who made this game, we don't like her politics, so we're not gonna buy it. That's like one thing, but when you're actively trying to get this game canceled so other people can't buy it, that's where I feel like you cross the line for most people. Now you're just being self-centered assholes. This is no longer about you disagreeing with the creator of the franchise that probably had nothing to do with the actual game at all whatsoever. This is about control. That's all this is. This is you trying to make sure that nobody is allowed to play the game so you could feel powerful because you're just a loser on Reddit, basically. Sometimes it's not what you're saying, but it's how you say it. And if your mission is to try and, convert people into not buying this game, not giving them the option to is not going to help you. You catch more bees with beavers than you do with fish. I don't know what the saying is. And here we go. So this is one post, or a type of post I want to see because there's so many of them. So part of their big harassment campaign against the game was them going onto Steam and trying to tag bomb it, because essentially you could add tags to the game. And so it kind of just like became a meme to do, trying to get the game rated like NSFW so parents wouldn't buy it for their kids. Like, again, actively trying to take away video games from children. Honestly, if I saw those tags on a game, it would just make me want to buy it more. Like there's a very good opportunity that Warner Brothers paid this subreddit to promote the game with, like, ironically trying to destroy it. Like, I didn't care about Hogwarts Legacy at all until I started seeing it. Like, I might actually buy it now just because of this dumb backlash from this even dumber subreddit. You have this one where it's basically this girl saying, like, I don't agree with, she's basically saying, like, I don't like J.K. Rowling, and I don't agree with her views, but I do defend people's, like, right to purchase the game. And she's like, I'm just kind of like sick about getting attacked from both sides for her views, and then she gets attacked for her views. New cutscene from Hogwarts Legacy just dropped featuring the player character, and it's a picture of Hitler, which is, I mean, it's kind of funny, but I mean, like, it's such a overreaction. If they were just more moderate about their views and like implementing them, I feel like their message would get pushed out quite a bit further and get signal boosted a lot more. But like, it's stuff like this where it's like, obviously not Hitler. Generally, when a video game is getting ratioed, it tends to be over something legitimate, such as, in recent memories, games just being unfinished. That seems to be a weird trend that's happened in the past couple years. You go and you buy yourself a AAA game and it's not done. It's just filled with all these glitches and like everything just needs to be patched. How many games have we played in the past 3 years that have had day one patches that are larger than the game itself? As AAA games get more and more expensive to produce, the level of quality control has continued to decline, and it's like it's a very strange tactic that seems to maybe work in the short term, but I don't see how this can be sustainable in the long term. And if I'm looking at my own purchasing habits, I've completely stopped pre-ordering games because there's no guarantee that, you know, this new AAA polished title from a respected studio that is in a franchise that I love is actually going to be playable for the first 3 months that it's out. But those are just technical things. Games are getting ratioed for creative aspects as well. Let's take The Last of Us Part 2, for example. A game that had a terrible story in a franchise that's known for having a good story.
Are you okay?
And Naughty Dog took the same approach that Disney and Hollywood treat their AAA big budget blockbuster summer films these days by putting them in this cloak of diversity.
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger.
All you need to do is force inject a little diversity into the cast, and then anytime anything, you know, any kind of negative criticism against anything creative happens in the franchise or, you know, the film or the movie or the TV show, whatever it is, you could always just point at, well, look, I mean, there's a black person in it, so it's probably, I mean, you probably don't like the character because of the person's skin color. And you're like, well, no, that's not, I don't care that they're black. What I care about is like this isn't the character, and this is a poorly written character. This cloak of diversity that everything seems to be getting thrown in these days is really, it's just like this really obvious crutch that these studios are doing in film and television, and now that's like bleeding into gaming as well. The structure of having to play as Abby was so poorly handled. It's such a blatant cry wolf game that's being played, and as soon as you criticize anything about that franchise because it has diversity in it, you know, you're just automatically labeled an ultra MAGA warlock that's trying to cast a spell of bigotry onto the franchise.
Listen, it's not magic, okay? It's 50 ultra MAGA warlocks casting a spell to make it so I have perfect balance for 45 seconds in one day.
Hogwarts Legacy, however, I think might be the first video game in history to be preemptively ratioed, but not for the content of its character, but the views of its original IP's creator that I don't actually think had anything to do with the game. Are the characters and the storylines in the game transphobic? No, but we are labeling J.K. Rowling transphobic, ergo, the game is transphobic, and if you purchase and play the game, you are also a transphobe. In case if you're not up to speed with your J.K. Rowling lore, she gets labeled a TERF, a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. I'm not sure if that's what TERF means. I know it is an acronym. I actually don't remember what the letters stand for, and I don't care enough to Google it, but it's something along those lines. 10 years ago, J.K. Rowling would have been considered top of the progressive food chain because she's a feminist and a woman. Unfortunately for her, I want to say probably within the past 3 to 5 years, maybe, let's say the past 5 years, there's been this like complete switch where there now is this like hierarchy of oppression, which is also funny to me because it seemed like just maybe 5 years ago, the general narrative of the message at the time was not only do we need to destroy patriarchy, but any kind of hierarchy whatsoever is anti-equity, and those also need to be dismantled because of racism and bigotry and sexism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now they're kind of just doing that exact same thing, but with like this, you know, mountain of oppression, this totem pole of oppression, if you will. Actually, totem pole is probably oppressive to some kind of tribe somewhere. And that mountain of oppression goes as follows. Obviously, at the very, very bottom, I don't even know if they make the list. They're probably so low, they're burning in hell, which is probably true. You got men. That's where men are. They are at the bottom. It is very difficult to get yourself out of that position unless if you have 2 or maybe 3 kind of secondary factors, identity factors going on for you. But if you are just a man and nothing else, you can die. Above that, that's where you have women. Women are, I would say, actually not that much higher above men these days. If you're a default setting woman, it's not cutting it anymore. Feminism is dead. Nobody cares. You're not oppressed enough. Then there's the gender queefs. These ones are my personal favorite, I must say. How could I explain gender queefs to you? They're basically like, they're basically a man or a woman who sees themselves as allies, but is not so committed that they are going to come out as gay and disappoint their parents. So instead, what they opt for is just purchasing some gender DLC. That's their plan of attack of climbing up the hierarchy of oppression. This includes, but is not limited to, adopting fake pronouns like Xi and Zhao and Zhang. They have to sound Chinese in nature because obviously the entire thing is clearly just a ploy to preemptively assimilate with our future overlords and government, the Chinese. Ni hao. Honestly, this gender-bending game these pronoun people are playing is this like verbose charade style way of saying, I'm not straight. Above the gender queefs, then we have race. Now, race is a big one because race also has their own like sub-hierarchy to it. Obviously, not all races are created equal. So clearly at the bottom of that substructure, we have the whites. I mean, I think that goes without saying. I mean, we're evil and we have caused all the harm in the world. Everything that's ever happened that's bad has come from whites. And then just right above that, surprisingly, is the Asians. Well, not all Asians, not the brown Asians.
You promised my son that you're going to give him free Robux.
I guess some of the brown Asians.
You got girlfriend, Vietnam? Not just this minute. Yeah. Well, baby, me so horny.
The stereotypical Asian-looking ones, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know what's with all the Asian hate because, I mean, I guess you could blame it on the pandemic, but I think it really honestly started beforehand. I think it's probably because they do pretty well in society. So, I mean, they're basically just white at this point. Then we got the Arabs, some of the brown Asians. I think people are still might be a little salty after 9/11, so they're still kind of looked down upon. And I think they also caught a lot of bad PR for, I guess, their treatment of women. They seem to be trying to turn that game around as we speak. So more power to them, I suppose. Then we have another set of brown Asians, the Indians, who I think for many years were actually making like quite a bit of progress for themselves. I thought they were doing quite a good of goodwill towards the people, but they've done a lot of work over the past 15 years in call centers, and that's a hell I wouldn't wish on any of my enemies. It seems like it's gotten them onto some pretty thin ice at the moment. Then above that, you got all the South Americans. I think most people probably can't tell the difference between them or care really. So we'll just call them Mexicans just for ease. Just Mexicans. I think it's just going to be easier for everyone. Sorry, Puerto Rico. Then above the Mexicans, we have actual Indians, the indigenous tribes of the land. I think they're still pretty up there. I think they're going to be a real hard spot to move in the race hierarchy. I think they're pretty solidly at number 2 right now. And then that brings us to number 1, which is obviously African Americans. I do want to give a honorable mention to actual Africans. You guys were very close to making the list, but I think the entire continent is it's like really hot and it's kind of far away. So I think it's kind of just like a tree falling in the forest sort of deal, like if no one's around to hear it, does it really exist? If you can't hear the crying screams of the slave children literally digging through mines with their hands to get the rare earth minerals that make up all of our technology, do they really exist? I don't really want to think about slavery. It's kind of a bummer. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Africa exists. So that's how race goes. I'm pretty sure I nailed it. If you guys feel differently, leave a comment, I guess. I don't know. So like the middle episode of an anime series, we're going to just do a little recap here. So we have men at the bottom, then we have basic bitches, then you get, gender queef, then race, then you get the gays. I think the gays have been kind of all over the place lately. I feel like there's a little bit of dissension in their ranks. That's kind of like faltering their spot of oppression. I think like the whole gays against groomers movement is like, it's really kind of sowing some division amongst the gays, and I can see them in the next 3.5 years falling down a spot, because we do have a new entry that I don't think has made it to part of the group yet, but I think it's very reasonable to consider them to be part of the group soon enough, and that group, of course, is pedophiles. Pedophiles, I think, are obviously seem to be making their way into the LGBT, and then, of course, number one, the most oppressed, is trans people, and that's where J.K. Rowling screwed up. You see, she is pretty close to the bottom and is punching way up at the top. That is a no-no amongst the oppressed. So that's it. Buy Hogwarts if you want to buy Hogwarts. Okay, bye.